line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being, but who is willing to destroy a piece of their own heart? I have stumbled upon this quote very recently, and it made me think about Guts and Griffith from Berserk. So I decided, why not write a video about two of my favorite characters and probably the best dynamic I have seen between an antagonist and a protagonist in a seinen manga. For all of those that are not familiar with Berserk, well, Berserk is a seinen manga written by Kentaro Miura, and it deals with so many themes and questions philosophers have been asking for decades, if not centuries. And today, I am going to be attempting a critical analysis of perhaps the two most iconic and popular seinen characters of all time. Let us start by defining the term shadow. Some of you might understand what I am going to be talking about from the video's title, because I am not going to be talking about a shadow in its literal sense. Instead, I will be using Carl Jung's shadow. What is that, you might be asking? Well, Carl Jung is a legendary Swiss philosopher who coined the term shadow to describe a psychological concept which can be explained in the simplest terms as the voice or intuition that can push human beings to do acts of a negative nature. In many religions, that uneasy feeling has strong connotations with the devil, be it Satan or whatever supernatural being that tempts human beings to do evil deeds. Carl Jung believed that every single human has a shadow made from subconscious aspects of one's personality that he or she despises and represses. Jung also believes that every human will wage war against his shadow willingly or unwillingly over the course of a lifetime. If victorious, a person can use his shadow as a power source for enlightenment, wisdom, and a better decision-making process. But if you take an L from your shadow, then you will be in a state of confusion, dealing with an imbalanced mental state, not knowing why you keep repeating the same mistakes, and hurting people around you, even if you don't mean any harm. And the shadow has been used metaphorically in many works of art, be it paintings, music, movies, and our favorite medium, manga. Naruto's dealings with the nine-tailed fox are a visual representation of a boy's struggle with his shadow. At first, he doesn't know of its existence, but feels the heavy impact it has on his everyday life. And then, thanks to multiple great mentors, he realizes what was wrong and what was going on inside of him. After he tames his shadow, his newfound wisdom and power helps him achieve great goals and attain his lifelong dreams. And that is a shonen representation of how to deal with the shadow. Now let's get darker. As you know, Kentaro Miura's Berserk mainly deals with the same theme, a man's quest to conquer his shadow. And the Golden Age arc dives into Guts' backstory and shows us a life full of abuse, dishonesty, and death. Right from the jump, you realize that all of this trauma has to play a big role on the main character's psyche. You can't go through rape and multiple assassinations without it playing a factor in who you become. And as Guts was gaining notoriety on the battlefield, his greatest war had already waged, and it was the one between him and his shadow. The most important step in order to win this war is the very first one. Realizing that there is a conflict going on within you and not ignoring it. Guts dealt with the pain by killing. He turned his anger into rage to defeat his opponents left and right, but never got the fulfillment he was looking for. He might have had reflections and philosophical thoughts in the early parts of the arc, but he truly did not understand the mental aspect of war until he met defeat at the hands of Griffith. And this is Miura's writing at his best. He introduced one of the greatest antagonists ever, but disguised him so beautifully that I fell for his trick. When Griffith was shown in the story, he was portrayed as this man whom we perceived as balanced and elegant, a great warrior, politician, and gentleman. And after getting to know him a bit more, Guts and the viewer starts modeling their vision of what a man who conquered his shadow looks like in the world of Berserk. We hoped that Griffith would help Guts to reach enlightenment and defeat his shadow, while Guts at the same time will help Griffith achieve his dream of having his own kingdom. I mean, I personally could visualize the end of Berserk right then and there, with both of them living a fulfilled life in the kingdom that they literally fought for. But that is not what happened. Once Guts realized the mental aspect of war and worked on his wisdom for the next couple of years in parallel to his swordsmanship, everyone around him could see his progress as a warrior, but most importantly as a man and a leader. Guts, who was known for his beast-like anger, grew to a more nuanced character because he did not let his shadow and anger run rampant on his psyche. He actually took a stand to figure out who he wants to become as a person and how to get there. In the meanwhile, we started seeing deficiencies in Griffith. The man we all thought was so pure started using some shady and unethical methods in order to get materialistic gain. He justified his decision as a sacrifice to his fallen comrades, to do whatever is possible to win in order to honor all of those who died for him. I remember that when he was saying this, he was cutting himself and indulging in self-harm, which is a common occurrence among people who suffer from mental health issues. This is when the viewer starts realizing there is something wrong with Griffith, and that he is not the balanced character that reached enlightenment. In fact, his inner state right now could be comparable to a bomb waiting to explode. And it is here where Miura executes his twist and greatest trick by showing us that some people can be like Griffith, blessed with so many positive characteristics on top of being lucky, but that all can lay to waste with a single unhealthy obsession that could ruin all of their lives. It's also here where Miura unveils the true story between Guts and Griffith. We have been led to believe that Griffith was the beacon of light that will help Guts get away from his shadow. Turns out the complete opposite occurs, and it is Guts that finally sheds the spotlight on Griffith's weakness when he beats him in their second duel. This was a representation of Guts getting out of Griffith's shadow in the more traditional sense of the word, but philosophically, this loss represented Griffith's plunge into his own war against his shadow, a war that we know by now will end in tragedy. Griffith's might and wit was now futile against his new enemy, an opponent he can't hack or slash with a sword, or outsmart and out-tactic with his brain. Unfortunately, in his imbalanced state, Griffith made errors of judgments that led to his capture and torture. With a bloated carcass, crippled knees, and barely recognizable, Griffith's loss to his shadow broke the humanity left within him and rendered his elocutions and grandiose speeches about dreams and victory obsolete. And as we said before, an untamed shadow turns men into monsters, and in Kentaro Miura's Berserk, Griffith turned into Femto, a demonic creature that killed and raped people that laid it all on the line to rescue him from certain doom. Now, before I leave you, this is an opportunity for each of us Berserk fans to reflect on our own shadow and where we stand before it. I hope you like and share this video if you were entertained by it or deem it insightful, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.